Liam Morgan stepped off the bus in Baywick, the coastal town where he had grown up, and paused on the sidewalk as if the breeze itself might know how to greet him after so many years. He inhaled the salt-tinged air, letting the echoes of the past swirl in his mind. The last time he had been here, he'd walked away from everything he knew, his family, his friends, and the one woman who held his heart. Now, that same heart pounded with an unfamiliar mix of longing and dread. He ran a hand through his thick, dark hair, scanning the familiar main street of his hometown. It seemed the more things changed, new coffee shop signs, fresh coats of paint on old buildings, the more they remained the same. A welcome banner for the upcoming Community Art Festival hung between two lampposts, fluttering in the breeze. And there was the sound of laughter that drifted over from a nearby diner, hinting at memories he once tried to bury. Deep down, Liam wondered if he'd made the right decision in returning. He was a successful architect now, quietly recognized for his innovative designs in far-off cities. Yet none of that success erased the aching emptiness he felt whenever he glanced at an old photograph or remembered the curve of Naomi Ellis's smile. The thought of seeing her again made his chest tighten. He forced himself to take a step forward. "Face what you left behind," he murmured under his breath, recalling the reason he'd finally decided to come home. His mother had passed away 2 years earlier, and her voice still resonated in his mind. "Don't let regrets consume you, my boy." Maybe it was too late, but maybe it wasn't. He headed toward the bed and breakfast owned by Mrs. Wilkinson, an old family friend. The sky hung low with hints of a summer storm, and the gulls overhead called out like old companions with stories to share. As he walked, he felt the swirl of emotions that 8 years of distance had only sharpened. He half expected the streets to turn on him, or for the shadows of his past to leap out and demand answers for his abrupt departure. Yet, the town was deceptively peaceful, welcoming him as though he had never left. Little did he know, in a matter of days, the quiet routine of Baywick and his own life would be shattered by a single revelation that might change him forever. "Liam? Oh my goodness, is that really you?" Mrs. Wilkinson stood at the threshold of her cozy bed and breakfast, her eyes widening with equal measures of surprise and delight. She ushered him in with the warmth of a mother hen gathering a lost chick. Inside, the fragrance of lavender and freshly baked bread made his stomach rumble. Liam gave a polite smile and hauled his single suitcase through the hallway, feeling the curious stares of the other guests. He'd never particularly enjoyed the spotlight, and Baywick was the kind of place where word traveled faster than lightning. "You'll find your room at the top of the stairs," Mrs. Wilkinson said, handing him a brass key. "And, Liam, it's so nice to see you back. I'm sure Elijah will be thrilled." He forced a grin. "I'll drop in on Elijah soon." "Thank you." Later that afternoon, after unpacking just the essentials, Liam emerged into the warm glow of early evening. The Community Art Festival was in full swing in the local park. Tents, laughter, and bright colors met his eyes. The jovial sounds of a jazz quartet drifted across the booths. He wandered aimlessly, equal parts curious and uncertain, scanning the crowd for a familiar face and simultaneously praying he wouldn't see her. But fate rarely operates on polite timing. Liam turned a corner near a stall selling hand-painted ceramics, and there she was, Naomi Ellis. She looked almost exactly as he remembered. Her hair was slightly shorter, a rich brunette wave grazing her shoulders, and her posture was as poised as ever. She was in animated conversation with another woman, who laughed and nudged Naomi in the ribs. His heart seemed to slam into his ribs, demanding action. Before he could think to retreat, Naomi caught sight of him. The air stiffened. He braced himself for anger, or for her to turn away and ignore him entirely. Instead, her expression flickered with shock, then caution, and finally a gentle, guarded curiosity. "Hi, Liam," she managed, stepping forward. Her voice was not cold, but there was a weight to it, a reflection of lingering hurt, perhaps. He inhaled. "Naomi, hi. It's been a while." Even saying her name stirred something deep within him, a memory that both comforted and unsettled him. Her friend quickly excused herself, leaving the two of them standing awkwardly among chattering festival-goers. the bubble of forced politeness surrounded them. Liam noticed Naomi fiddling with a delicate bracelet on her wrist, as though she were uncertain how to handle his sudden presence. "Did you just get into town?" she asked. "This morning," he replied softly. "I'm staying at Mrs. Wilkinson's place for now." Naomi's gaze flickered. For a moment, he thought he saw emotions swirling there, regret, relief, perhaps even anger, but then her face smoothed over. She gave a polite, almost mechanical nod. "I see." She cleared her throat. "Well, it's good to see you, Liam. I'm helping out at that ceramics booth, so." Her voice trailed off, and he understood. She wasn't inviting him in, she was closing the door. Or trying to. He swallowed the desire to ask the 1,000 questions burning in his mind. Instead, he gave her a kind, albeit resigned smile and nodded. "Sure. It was good seeing you." And in that moment, the 8 years apart felt like they had collapsed into one fragile second, one that threatened to snap under the tension. He watched her walk back to the booth, shoulders stiff, and wondered if he had made a grave mistake by coming home. The sky was a brilliant blue the next day, with wispy clouds stretching like daydreams on the horizon. Liam found himself at the waterfront, surveying the small fishing pier. He had come to Baywick to find answers, or so he thought. Yet the past 24 hours had already delivered more questions. While lost in thought, he felt a tug at his sleeve. He turned to see a wide-eyed little girl with braided hair and a curiosity too big for her small frame. "Hi," she chirped. Hello," Liam replied, taken aback. The girl tilted her head. "Are you new here? I saw you yesterday at the festival. You looked lost." Liam swallowed a laugh. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of new. I grew up here, but I haven't been back in a long time." "I'm Arya," the girl said brightly. "I'm 7. My mom's over there." She pointed toward a woman reading a magazine on a nearby bench. Liam followed the direction of her finger and felt his stomach flip. It was Naomi. "Your mom is Naomi Ellis?" he asked, more to himself than to Arya. Arya squinted. "Yes." "You know her?" He exhaled slowly. "We went to school together." "Cool. That's why you looked at her funny yesterday?" Arya asked with a childlike directness that caused his cheeks to burn. "I guess so." He forced a chuckle, wondering how to handle this. Should he go and say hello to Naomi again? Or should he leave things as they were? Arya, oblivious to his dilemma, bounced on her toes. "We're going to get ice cream soon. You can come if you want. My mom won't mind." Liam was torn between fleeing and accepting. A part of him yearned to spend more time around Naomi, maybe even talk to her properly, but he recalled the guarded look in her eyes at the festival. Would she welcome him? At that moment, Naomi glanced over from the bench and froze when she saw Liam with Arya. Quickly, she folded her magazine and approached them. Her eyes darted between Liam and her daughter, as if she were mentally closing every emotional door she had left open. "Arya," Naomi said in a steady voice, "let's not bother people we don't know." "He's not bothered," Arya protested. "He said he's from here, just gone a long time." Naomi's smile was tight. "Well, let's go. Camila's waiting for us." With that, she took Arya's hand and walked away, leaving Liam with a hollow ache in his chest. As the bright-eyed little girl cast him a curious glance over her shoulder, he had a bizarre sense of déjà vu. He couldn't pinpoint why, but something about her eyes felt familiar, too familiar. Later that day, Liam found his footsteps leading him to the abandoned skate park where he had spent countless hours in high school. Now, weeds poked through cracks in the concrete. The echoes of teenage laughter and scraped knees seemed to linger in the silence. For a moment, he just let the memories wash over him, memories of Naomi, her wide smile on the bleachers as she cheered him on, or the thrill he felt whenever she brushed his arm. They'd started off as friends, bonding over sketching sessions and creative dreams. She'd paint flowers on canvas, he'd design treehouses and future homes. Bit by bit, their friendship blossomed into a love so strong it felt like the only reality that mattered. Then came the catastrophic event that shattered everything. Their unborn child had not survived a complicated miscarriage. The grief and guilt that followed had been too much for both of them, especially Liam. He remembered the night he drove away, tears burning his eyes, leaving Naomi alone in her heartbreak. Part of him had convinced himself that he was doing it for her, that maybe she deserved someone stronger, someone better. Another part simply couldn't cope with his own overwhelming sense of loss and failure. He shook his head, recalling the final argument they had. Words had been thrown out like knives, sharpened by raw pain. She had screamed at him for being emotionally absent when she needed him most, and he had stormed off, never looking back. Shame still stained his soul whenever he thought about that night. Naomi had needed comfort, and instead, he'd run away. Now, 8 years later, the tragedy still loomed like a shadow over everything. If only he could go back in time and hold her tighter, maybe they could have healed together. But he couldn't change the past. All he could do was decide how to face it now. The next morning, Liam ventured into a local cafe, Bright Bean, a newer addition to Baywick's small business scene. He ordered a latte and stood by the pickup counter, glancing around at the warm, inviting decor. His eyes landed on a corner table where Naomi and Arya sat with a friend, Camila, if he remembered correctly. They sipped hot chocolate and chatted in low voices. Liam felt his heart thrum with longing. He couldn't tear his gaze away from the easy way Arya talked, her small hands gesturing excitedly, or the gentle affection in Naomi's face as she watched her daughter. This was a life he had never seen, a life that seemed to exclude him entirely. Was this what Naomi had built after he left? Arya glanced up, spotted him, and waved. Naomi's eyes followed her daughter's line of sight. Their gazes locked. An unreadable tension filled the distance between them. He gathered his courage and, coffee in hand, walked over. Camila shifted uncomfortably, and Naomi stiffened as if preparing for battle. Arya beamed. "Mom, can he sit with us?" Camila quickly answered, "We were just finishing, actually." She forced a small, polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Naomi has to open the gallery soon, don't you, Naomi?" Naomi nodded, the tension on her face unrelenting. "Yes, we do." Liam knew when he wasn't wanted. He stepped back, trying to keep his voice calm. "Sorry to interrupt. Maybe another time." He left without a further word, though his mind spun with questions. Why was Naomi being so distant? He understood their painful history, but 8 years had passed. Could she truly still resent him for leaving, or was there something more beneath her guarded demeanor? That night, sleepless and weary, Liam stared at the ceiling of his rented room, weighed down by guilt and uncertainty. The face of that little girl, Arya, kept flashing through his mind. Something about her kept him tethered to thoughts he couldn't fully articulate, as though she carried a puzzle piece he was meant to recognize. A few days later, as Liam strolled along the boardwalk, he felt a playful tug at the back pocket of his jeans. He turned to see Arya, holding up a small sketchbook. "You dropped this," she announced, handing it to him proudly. "Thanks," Liam said, accepting it with a gentle smile. "I wondered where it went." Arya clutched her own small notebook in her other hand. "I like to draw, too." She shifted from foot to foot, then added shyly, "Wanna see?" Before he could respond, she opened her notebook. Inside were whimsical doodles, flowers, birds, and surprisingly detailed faces. Liam whistled softly. "These are really good, Arya. Did your mom teach you?" Arya shrugged. "Mom doesn't draw much. She paints sometimes, but mostly she works at the gallery. My Aunt Camila says I get my drawing from my dad." Liam swallowed. "Your dad?" She nodded, oblivious to the shift in his tone. I've never met him. Mom says he left before I was born. The words crashed over Liam like a tidal wave. He fought to keep his expression neutral. I'm sorry to hear that. Arya flipped through her sketchbook until she landed on one of a tall man with messy dark hair. Liam's breath caught. There was something eerily familiar about the depiction. I drew this from a picture I found, Arya explained. Mom got mad when she saw it, so I hid it. She giggled, then turned serious. He looks kinda like you, except younger. Before Liam could process this, Arya snapped her notebook shut, as if she had just shared a mischievous secret. Anyway, thanks for finding my drawing pencil. See you. She skipped away, leaving Liam rooted to the spot. Something in that sketch had flipped a switch in his heart, illuminating a gnawing suspicion. The man she drew, dated 7 years prior, resembled him to an unsettling degree. But how could that be? Desperate for clarity, he decided he needed to talk to someone who might have answers, his older brother, Elijah. Elijah Morgan lived just outside Baywick, on a sprawling property lined with tall pine trees. He greeted Liam at the door with a guarded smile, the kind that said he was wary of old wounds. They settled in Elijah's living room, the warm glow of the fireplace casting dancing shadows across the worn wooden floor. You look good, little brother, Elijah said, folding his arms. Better than the last time I saw you. That was at Mom's funeral, Liam replied softly. When you gave me that look like you wanted to throttle me for staying away so long. Elijah gave a sad chuckle. Maybe I did. Doesn't matter now, though. You're here, so let's move forward. Silence settled between them, thick with unspoken history. Finally, Liam leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Elijah. I need to know something about Naomi. She has a daughter, 7 years old. Arya, Elijah interrupted, his eyes flashing. I know. So you do? Liam pressed, his voice trembling with anxiety. Elijah's jaw tightened. Everyone in town knows. Naomi's never hidden her, if that's what you're implying. Liam exhaled. I'm not accusing her of hiding. But I can't shake the feeling that Arya has something to do with me, with... Stop, Elijah cut him off, standing abruptly. Don't go digging. You left, Liam. You had your reasons, and she had hers for never contacting you. Let sleeping dogs lie. His brother's sharp tone was a slap in the face, and Liam felt frustration surge. Why won't anyone tell me the truth? I just want to know if... Elijah pointed a finger at him. You want to fix the past? You can't. Some things are better left alone. Anger flared in Liam's chest. That's not for you to decide, he retorted. If Arya is... She's not, Elijah shot back. Then he paused, took a breath. At least, not in the way you're thinking. Just trust me. It's complicated. Before Liam could demand clarity, Elijah turned away, signaling the conversation was over. The only sound that followed was the crackle of the fireplace, mirroring the tension that sizzled between the two brothers. Determined not to let another roadblock deter him, Liam cornered Camila at the art gallery the next afternoon. Camila, who was helping Naomi display new pieces for an upcoming show, eyed him with thinly veiled suspicion. Naomi was away running errands, leaving them alone in the spacious gallery filled with abstract paintings and sculptures. Liam approached her quietly. Camila, do you have a minute? She sighed, placing a large canvas carefully against the wall. If this is about Naomi, I really don't think. It is, Liam interrupted, voice trembling with sincerity. Look, I know I don't deserve an easy answer, but I need to understand. Camila straightened, brushing dust from her hands. No, you don't deserve easy anything, Liam. Naomi went through hell when you left. His stomach twisted in guilt. I know. I made terrible mistakes. I was young, terrified. I never wanted to hurt her. Camila's expression softened just a fraction. Hurt her you did, though. And every day you stayed away, the wound got deeper. He lowered his gaze, words failing him. Then he mustered his courage. Is she my daughter? Camila inhaled sharply, folding her arms over her chest. You really want to reopen that can of worms? I need the truth. Please, Liam said, voice barely above a whisper. Camila stared at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face for sincerity. Then she glanced around to ensure no one else was listening. In a hushed tone, she said, Liam, walk away. You're only going to cause more pain. If you learn certain truths, you might regret ever coming back. But I'm serious, she said firmly, her eyes glimmering with something that looked like pity. Naomi has her reasons for not telling you everything. Don't try to unravel them now. As she turned to continue her work, Liam stood there, rooted in place by an unsettling mix of suspicion and dread. Her words lingered, sharp as broken glass, don't try to unravel them now. Despite Camila's warning, Liam couldn't rest. He found himself combing through old social media posts from local events, gleaning any scraps of information about Naomi and Arya that were publicly available. Most were innocuous, pictures from community picnics, a mention of Naomi volunteering at a local children's camp. But then he stumbled upon a detail that sent a chill through him, an old post congratulating Naomi on Arya's birth, with a date that placed Arya's birthday just 8 months after he and Naomi had split. His heart hammered. The timing was almost impossible to ignore. Liam remembered the night of their breakup in excruciating detail. They had parted in late autumn. Arya was born in early summer the following year. The math, so stark and undeniable, lit a fire inside him. He revisited his last conversation with Naomi after the miscarriage. Except, could there have been a mistake? Could Naomi have gotten pregnant again, after that tragedy, but before he left for good? The questions buzzed like hornets in his mind, and the conclusion they pointed to was inescapable. Arya might indeed be his daughter. Unsure whom to trust, Liam wrestled with how to proceed. He couldn't simply confront Naomi again without evidence. She would likely stonewall him, or worse, deny everything. And Elijah, something about Elijah's stance suggested he was protecting Naomi or maybe even Liam from some harsh reality. Liam mulled over a drastic step, one he never imagined he'd consider. Yet, desperation drove him. If Arya truly was his daughter, he needed to be absolutely certain. That night, he resolved to take matters into his own hands, no matter the moral quandary it posed. The opportunity presented itself at the local library. Liam was perched at a desk in the children's section, leafing through architectural magazines while half hoping to run into Arya. Sure enough, he heard her voice before he saw her. She was with a group of kids at a reading circle, and Naomi was off to the side, chatting with another mother. When the reading session ended, Arya skipped over to Liam. Hey, I remember you, she teased with a wide grin, as though they were old friends. We see each other everywhere. He laughed softly, trying to mask his apprehension. It's a small town. She shrugged off her backpack to show him a new sketch. His pulse beat loud in his ears as he noticed a few strands of hair clinging to the fabric. Moral hesitation warred inside him. Yet the question that haunted him weighed heavier. With trembling fingers, he gently plucked a single strand, concealing it quickly in his hand. He hated himself for invading a child's privacy like this, but if it meant confirming the truth. He rationalized that he needed clarity, for everyone's sake. Arya gathered her belongings, gave Liam a bright smile, and waved goodbye. Naomi, noticing her daughter's interaction with him, tightened her jaw but said nothing. She guided Arya away, leaving Liam in a state of churning guilt and determination. 2 days later, he mailed off the hair sample to a discreet lab, using an online kit he had ordered under a pseudonym. As he sealed the envelope, he whispered a prayer. Part of him wanted the results to show he was Arya's father, part of him dreaded what that would mean for the fragile life Naomi had built. All he could do now was wait. Each day felt like an eternity. Liam busied himself with freelance architectural projects, drafting designs on his laptop in the quiet corners of the bed and breakfast. His mind, however, was far from quiet. Questions hammered at him incessantly. What if the test is negative? What if it's positive? And if it is, what then? A week later, the test results arrived by courier. Heart-pounding, he tore open the sealed envelope in his room. The world around him seemed to still as he read the line that changed everything: probability of paternity, 99.999%. He slumped back against the wall, tears prickling the corners of his eyes. A storm of emotions lashed at him: shock, guilt, an odd surge of joy, then a wave of anger at being kept in the dark for so long. Arya was his daughter. His daughter. He felt as though time had fractured, and the last 8 years took on an entirely new perspective. Why hadn't Naomi told him? Had she truly believed she couldn't rely on him, or had someone else convinced her to keep quiet? And how would Arya feel, discovering that the man she'd been bumping into was more than just a stranger? He pressed a hand to his face, overwhelmed. Like it or not, this changed everything. Liam knew he had to confront Naomi, and soon. For Arya's sake. For the sake of the father-daughter bond they never got to build. With the test results in hand, he set out to find Naomi, his heart racing in equal measures of conviction and dread. The sun hung low over Baywick when Liam finally tracked Naomi down at the local beach. She stood at the shoreline, toes in the surf, gazing out at the horizon as the last hues of orange and pink streaked the sky. Arya was not with her. Liam suspected Naomi had chosen this spot for some contemplative solitude. He approached quietly, the envelope clutched in his hand. When she noticed him, she made no move to leave, but her eyes held a wary caution. Without preamble, he offered her the envelope. "I know, Naomi," he said, his voice trembling. Naomi's face paled. She glanced at the envelope but didn't take it. "What do you think you know?" she asked, though her tone said she already had the answer. Liam swallowed hard. "I had a DNA test done on a strand of Arya's hair. I'm her father." Tears shimmered in Naomi's eyes, but she kept her chin high. "You had no right. Did you have the right to never tell me?" Liam exploded, the anger and betrayal he felt finally surging to the surface. "She's 7. That's 7 years I could have been her dad. 7 years I missed. You can't possibly think that was fair." Tears broke free from Naomi's lashes. She averted her gaze, hugging her arms around herself as though to shield against the cold. "Fair?" Her voice cracked. "You left me, Liam. You walked away without a word, and I was shattered. I couldn't. I was barely hanging on." He sucked in a ragged breath. "I didn't know you were pregnant when I left. You never. Because I didn't find out until after. I tried to reach you," she whispered. "I did. You changed your number. Your email bounced. You weren't on social media. I wasn't some malicious ex out to keep your child from you. I couldn't find you." Liam's heart plummeted. "I didn't know." He'd buried himself in work, and in trying to escape his grief, he'd erased his presence. Naomi wiped her tears, her voice trembling with sorrow and anger. "By the time I saw Elijah, I didn't know if you'd even want this baby. I still blamed you for abandoning me. And I knew if you came back out of guilt, it wouldn't fix anything." Silence stretched, broken only by the lapping waves. Liam bowed his head, tears burning his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Naomi. I never wanted to hurt you. But I can't change what happened. All I can do is ask, what now?" Naomi's shoulders shook with sobs. After a few moments, she met his gaze, pain etched deep in her features. I don't know, she admitted. I'm not ready to just hand her over to you. She doesn't even know who you are. Then let me explain it to her. Slowly. Carefully, Liam pleaded. I want a chance to be her father. Fresh tears slipped down Naomi's cheeks. We have to do what's right for Arya. I never wanted her to grow up feeling unloved. She's the only reason I found the strength to keep going. The broken confession tore at Liam's heart. Slowly, tentatively, he reached out, and she allowed him to wrap his arms around her. They stood there trembling, locked in a painful embrace, the waves washing over their feet as the sun sank below the horizon, both of them uncertain, yet bound by a love neither had fully abandoned. They agreed to meet the next day at Elijah's house to discuss everything openly. Arya stayed with Camilla, allowing the adults a chance to speak without a little girl's ears overhearing. As soon as Elijah opened the door and spotted Liam and Naomi side by side, his posture went rigid. Naomi wasted no time. Elijah, I told Liam the truth, she said softly. Elijah rubbed his brow, sighing heavily. That you have a daughter, yes, I know. Liam stepped forward, his voice hoarse. I'm Arya's father. You knew all along, didn't you? Elijah closed his eyes. I suspected. Naomi confirmed it for me before Arya was born. Why? Liam bit out. Why keep this from me? Elijah's eyes flashed. Because you were in no condition to be a father back then. You were spiraling, Liam, full of grief, anger, self-hatred. Naomi was terrified you'd reject her or the baby. She needed stability, and you were a wreck. Liam's jaw tightened, but he couldn't refute the claim. He had been at rock bottom. But you took that choice away from me, he said, voice cracking. You could have found me. You didn't even try. Elijah's face reflected torment. I thought I was protecting you, from another heartbreak, from your own self-destructive path. I was wrong. He glanced at Naomi with regret. I'm sorry. Naomi wrapped her arms around herself. We're all guilty here. Let's not turn this into a blame game. We need to focus on Arya. The tension in the room ebbed slightly as they collectively realized that the child's well-being took precedence over their own resentments. Elijah sighed and shook his head. I never wanted to see you two torn apart like this. I made a judgment call, maybe the worst one I've ever made. Silence settled over them, three individuals bound by a secret that spanned nearly a decade. In that moment, they each realized that any path toward healing would be fraught with mistakes and painful truths. But the time for half-truths was over. If there was any chance for redemption, it would have to start now, with raw honesty and a determination to do right by Arya. That evening, Naomi returned to Camilla's place to pick up Arya. She found her daughter curled in an armchair, hugging a stuffed bunny, tears staining her cheeks. Camilla stood nearby, looking distressed. What happened? Naomi asked gently, rushing to Arya's side. Arya lifted tear-filled eyes. Mommy! I heard you and Mr. Liam talking. Is he my dad? Naomi's heart dropped into her stomach. Oh, sweetie. Where did you? I left my crayons in Elijah's living room, Arya admitted. I came back to get them, and I heard shouting. You said I was Mr. Liam's daughter. Naomi felt her breath hitch. She glanced at Camilla, who shook her head apologetically. She must have come in without us noticing. Arya's tiny shoulders shook. I asked you before if my dad was gone forever, and you said yes. You never said who he was. Why? Tears flooded Naomi's eyes, and she knelt before her daughter. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared it might hurt you. Hurt me? Arya's voice was a pitiful squeak. You think it's better not to know my dad? Doesn't he want me? Naomi's heart shattered at the trembling in Arya's words. No, he does want you. We have a lot to figure out. But Arya pulled away, hugging the stuffed bunny tighter. Why didn't he come before? Why now? He's just a stranger to me, she whimpered. I don't understand. And with those words, the dam broke. Naomi wept, realizing the magnitude of the pain she had inadvertently caused her daughter. Arya, overwhelmed, bolted from the chair and ran into the hallway, leaving Naomi to collapse into sobs. Camilla placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, but the guilt overwhelmed any solace. Naomi knew Liam needed to be part of the conversation now. She could no longer hide this secret. But how could they repair Arya's fractured trust they had broken by withholding the truth for so long? Later that night, Naomi called Liam in tears. Arya found out, she said, voice trembling. She overheard everything. She ran away an hour ago. Camilla can't find her anywhere. I've looked everywhere. She's missing. Liam felt as though the ground dropped from beneath him. What do you mean she's missing? She's 7, Naomi. I know. Naomi sobbed. She got upset and ran off. We've searched all her usual hiding spots, but she's not there. Please, Liam, help me. Within minutes, Liam was out the door, adrenaline flooding his veins. A storm had rolled in, thunder rattling the windows of the old bed and breakfast. He combed the dark streets with a flashlight, calling Arya's name into the howling wind. Lightning illuminated the sky, and rain pelted the sidewalks in relentless sheets. He eventually met Naomi and Camilla at the park. They exchanged desperate looks, no luck so far. Elijah arrived shortly after, equally frantic. Splitting into search parties, they fanned out across Baywick, behind the school, the library, the old community center. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of pounding rain and churning dread. Every time Liam thought of Arya, alone, afraid, possibly blaming him for her confusion, his heart seized with terror. Finally, he remembered the treehouse. A distant memory sparked. As a teenager, he had built a small treehouse in the grove behind the old skate park. He and Naomi used to sneak away there. Could Arya have found it? Drenched to the bone, Liam sprinted toward the grove. The wind whipped at his clothes, and his legs ached from running. When he reached the clearing, he shone his flashlight up at the dark silhouette of the treehouse. Arya, he called, voice shaking. For a moment, the wind was his only reply. Then he heard a soft whimper. He climbed the makeshift ladder, nearly slipping on the rain-soaked rungs. Inside, he found Arya huddled in a corner, shivering and clutching a small lantern that flickered pitifully. His relief was so immense that he nearly collapsed. Oh, Arya, thank God. You're safe. She shrank away, tears mingling with the rain on her cheeks. Go away, she croaked. I hate you. Liam's heart twisted. Gently, he approached, lowering himself beside her. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. But let me keep you warm, please. He shrugged off his soaked jacket and wrapped it around her. She stared at him, conflicted, before finally letting out a broken sob and burying her face in his chest. Outside, thunder boomed, but Liam just held her, tears falling freely. He pressed a shaky kiss to her damp hair, silently vowing never to fail her again. Once Liam coaxed Arya down from the treehouse, they stood beneath the dripping pine branches, the storm raging around them. She refused to release her grip on his hand, clinging to him in a way that both broke and mended his heart. By the time Naomi arrived, breathless and soaked, Arya had begun to calm. Naomi rushed forward, immediately cradling Arya's face and covering it in frantic kisses. Arya whimpered in confusion, torn between her mother's embrace and Liam's presence. Are you hurt? Naomi asked, voice trembling. Arya shook her head. Just cold. Anne. I don't understand. Liam crouched next to them, exhaustion painting lines across his face. I'm sorry, Arya. None of this is your fault. You have every right to be confused or angry. She looked up, eyes wide and wet. Is it true? You're my dad? A lump formed in Liam's throat. Yes. I never knew until recently. I'm so sorry for not being here sooner. Arya's lip quivered. I don't know you. You're a stranger, but you feel like, she trailed off, tears brimming. Naomi wrapped an arm around her daughter. Honey, I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you if he never came back. Arya's small hand tightened around Liam's. So, you're not leaving again? She asked, voice trembling. His heart nearly burst from his chest. No, sweetheart. I won't leave again. I promise. A sob escaped Naomi. The three of them stood together in the pouring rain, forging a silent understanding that their fragile family had taken a first, tentative step toward healing, yet were still balancing on the edge of the unknown. The next morning, the storm clouds had dissipated, leaving a clear, crisp sky over Baywick. Naomi asked Liam to meet her at her small cottage on the outskirts of town. When he arrived, he noticed how homey it felt, flower pots on the porch, a wind chime singing a gentle tune in the breeze. Inside, Arya was napping after a restless night. Naomi led Liam to a modest living room where childhood photos of Arya decorated the mantel. The sight of them stirred an ache of regret in him, reminding him of everything he'd missed. Naomi returned from a closet with a box. Wordlessly, she set it on the coffee table. Liam opened it to find dozens of sealed envelopes. At first, he couldn't make sense of it. Then he recognized his own name scribbled across each one, Liam, in Naomi's familiar handwriting. What are these? He asked, voice hushed. They're letters, Naomi said, sitting beside him on the couch. I wrote you letters when I felt lost, or hopeful, or just overwhelmed. I never had anywhere to send them, so I kept them. Liam's throat tightened as he lifted one envelope and pulled out the letter. The handwriting was small and neat. Dear Liam, I'm sorry you're not here to see me grow. Our baby girl is kicking like she wants to meet you. I'm angry, but I also miss you so badly it hurts. His hands trembled, tears slipping from his eyes as he scanned the words. He set the first letter aside and opened another, then another. Each one chronicled Naomi's journey through pregnancy, Arya's birth, and the milestones that followed, her first smile, her first steps, the first day of preschool. In every word, Liam felt Naomi's heartbreak, her resilience, and the longing she'd held for him despite everything. When he finally looked up, Naomi's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty, she whispered. I just want you to understand how painful it was, raising our daughter without you, thinking you had chosen to forget us. I never forgot, he managed. I was too broken, too filled with grief after we lost that first pregnancy. I couldn't face you or myself. Naomi exhaled shakily. I know that now. I wish you'd have told me back then, maybe things would be different. With reverent care, Liam closed the box of letters. The weight of them was nothing compared to the burden in his heart. He reached for Naomi's hand, and she allowed him to hold it, a silent testament to the tentative bridge forming between them. In that moment, he vowed to read every one of those letters, to acknowledge the pain he had caused and the life he had missed. In the days that followed, Liam tried to weave himself gently into Arya's life. At first, the little girl was wary, her emotions vacillated between curiosity and a lingering sense of betrayal. But she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, as if some hidden bond knitted their hearts together despite the years apart. Naomi proposed a new arrangement. Each afternoon after school, Arya would spend a couple of hours with Liam, supervised by Naomi at first. They would do simple activities, feed the ducks at the park, help Arya with her homework, or just draw together at the kitchen table. Early in this new routine, Arya was quiet, responding with short answers, refusing to call Liam anything but Liam. However, as the days stretched into a week, small moments of connection blossomed. They laughed over silly jokes, discovered they both loved peanut butter on waffles, and spent hours drawing whimsical houses in Arya's sketchbook. One afternoon, Liam mustered the courage to ask Arya, "Do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to know about being your dad?" She pressed her pencil eraser to her lips. "Did you like to draw when you were my age?" Liam smiled. "I did. I dreamed of building amazing places where people could be happy and safe." Arya's eyes lit up. "Cool. Did you build this treehouse, too?" A lump rose in Liam's throat as he nodded. "I did, a long time ago. I'm sorry you had to find it the way you did, in the storm." She shrugged, eyes lowered. "I guess I like it there. It's peaceful." Naomi, who was watching from a corner, gave Liam a small encouraging nod. Slowly, the tension was lifting. In those little shared moments, Liam found a glimmer of hope that he could someday be more than just a stranger in Arya's life. Weeks melted into a month. Liam got into a steady rhythm with fatherhood, albeit a belated and rocky start. He walked Arya to school some mornings and picked her up in the afternoons. The first time Arya invited him to her class's show and tell, his heart felt like it might burst. On a bright Friday, the Baywick Elementary School hosted a small assembly in the cafeteria. Parents were invited to see the children display art projects. Arya's project was a tall cardboard model of a house, adorned with crayon drawings of flowers and sunshine. When she stood in front of the class, she looked anxiously at Liam, who sat in the front row beside Naomi. She cleared her throat. This is my dream house. I built it with my friend, my dad." The word echoed in Liam's ears, reverberating like the sweetest music he had ever heard. His chest tightened with emotion. Naomi placed a supportive hand on his shoulder as Arya continued. "I like to draw with my dad," Arya said, cheeks turning pink. "He's an architect, and he helps people make really cool buildings. He's teaching me about design and stuff. This is my dream house 'cause it has a big treehouse in the backyard. I love it." Liam felt tears prick his eyes. The quiet cafeteria was filled with proud parents, but in that moment, the only sound he heard was the quiet beating of his own heart, resonating with a love he'd never experienced until now. After the assembly ended, Arya ran to him, beaming. He lifted her into a hug, swallowing the lump in his throat as he whispered, "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, Dad," she whispered back, arms tight around his neck. That single word, Dad, felt like redemption. It was the final piece that sealed their bond, forging a connection that promised a new future, no matter how long in coming it was. The sun shone brightly over Baywick as Liam, Arya, and Naomi stood in the backyard of Naomi's cottage, surrounded by a small circle of friends and family. A gentle breeze swayed the balloons tied to the fence, and a whimsical banner read, "Welcome home." It was a modest gathering, just Elijah, Camila, Mrs. Wilkinson, and a couple of Naomi's neighbors who had grown close to Arya over the years. Arya zipped around excitedly, showing off the small play area Liam had renovated for her, a refurbished swing set and an artist's corner with a mini easel. The smell of grilled vegetables and freshly baked bread wafted in the air, courtesy of Camila's culinary efforts. Music played softly, and laughter bubbled among the guests. Liam stood by the wooden fence with Naomi, watching Arya race around with the neighborhood kids. Despite everything, the heartbreak, the lost years, they were finally stepping into a future filled with hope. Naomi turned to Liam, eyes bright. "I never thought we'd get here," she admitted. "Sometimes I wish we had been strong enough to work through our pain all those years ago. But now, seeing Arya so happy, I feel like maybe it's not too late." Liam slipped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "It isn't too late," he said gently. "We have a lot to work through, but I want this. Us, as a family." She nodded, and they both watched Arya, who was gleefully placing the final brushstrokes on a colorful painting of the newly refurbished treehouse. "What do we do next?" Naomi asked softly. We keep going, one day at a time, Liam replied, his gaze never leaving Arya. We show up for each other. We forgive ourselves. And we make new memories together. In that radiant moment, Naomi leaned her head on Liam's shoulder, and Arya, noticing their closeness, bounded over with an infectious grin. She wedged herself between them, hugging them both around the waist. They laughed, the sound resonating like a herald of better days. The party wore on into the late afternoon, the golden sunlight casting long, warm shadows across the lawn. Stories were shared, tears were discreetly wiped away, and promises of a second chance sparkled in every smile. Elijah offered Liam a quiet apology, and Liam accepted it with a firm clasp on his brother's shoulder, understanding that they were all learning to heal in different ways. At dusk, when the last guest left, Liam helped Naomi put away the chairs and leftover food. Arya, dozing off from all the excitement, lay curled on the living room sofa, hugging her stuffed bunny. Liam scooped her up in his arms, carrying her to her bedroom. Gently, he tucked her in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart," he whispered. Through half-lidded eyes, she managed a drowsy smile. "Good night, Dad." Liam's heart brimmed with gratitude. He closed the door carefully and returned to the living room, where Naomi waited. She handed him a cup of tea, and they settled onto the couch, leaning against one another as the last streaks of twilight faded outside. "Thank you," Naomi murmured, "for coming back." He turned to her, eyes reflecting the depth of his emotions. "I should be the one thanking you, for letting me be part of your lives again." A comfortable silence wrapped around them. Outside, the wind chimes on the porch jingled softly, and the gentle hum of nighttime insects began their lullaby. In that quiet hush, Liam and Naomi both understood that while the road ahead might hold bumps and uncertainties, they were no longer facing it alone. They had Arya, and they had each other. And that, truly, was a new beginning, one forged from heartbreak but strengthened by love, a testament to the resilience of the human heart. The end.